Just imagine a ride that tastes great and has less filling. Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast for Kings Island fans by Kings Island fans because that's who we are and that's who we care about. So, Ryan, the Viking Fury. Do you remember when guests would chant that? Tastes great, less filling?
You know, it's funny because that was such a strong historical thing that I thought it would never go away, and it like slowly did. But that was like a Budweiser commercial, right?
Miller.
Was it Miller? I was trying to find the commercial at one point. I wish we could find footage of people doing that. So for those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, Viking Fury, obviously, Intamin rocking ship in Oktoberfest at Kings Island, rocks back and forth. There used to be a commercial with a similar ride from, I guess it was Miller Lite. Is it Miller Lite or just Miller?
Miller, yeah, Miller beer, Miller Lite. You know, okay. They would argue back and forth which one was better.
Yeah, so they would rock back and forth, and half the boat would say it tastes great, and the other side would say less filling, and they would go back. And of course, since people do exactly what they see on television, that's what they did on this ride for years and years and years. And you would chant along as like a 7-year-old kid, as I did. And I had no idea what that was all about. I just was trying to fit in.
Yeah, you'd hear that throughout Oktoberfest. You know, it was fun, you know, back when that ride first opened, and, you know, every cycle was, you know, basically filled to capacity. And that's what you'd hear, that big chant.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always how I would associate this ride. And we've discussed this before too, but I want to know in the comments, were you, or if you have kids, were your kids ever the ones that as soon as they were tall enough for this and they broke their fear of it, that they wanted to ride it over and over and over? Because it seems like this
My
one
daughter wanted to do that over and over again.
Yeah, this one is definitely like a super candidate for that. Where, yeah, oh man, but
great airtime though if you're like in one of the back seats on this.
Yeah,
so much fun.
I really enjoy it. Now, it's an Oktoberfest. Maybe I don't know my history, but are the Vikings tied to Germany somehow? I always thought they were like Nordic.
I'm not sure where it fits into Oktoberfest. I just remember when it opened in 1982 was mid-season, you know, July 18th. It was the second media event at Kings Island that I was invited to go to. The first one was the Backwards Racer, you know, back in May, and then they opened this up. After we got to ride the ride several times, they had, like, the reception area was in the old station in Oktoberfest where the Sky Ride was. They had a place there, you know, where they had like wine and cheese and everything was sold there. So that's where the reception area was. There was a rider for the Cincinnati Enquirer, Jim Nippenberg, you know, passed away a few years ago, but you know, terrific rider, loved Kings Island. But I remember riding with him, I think it was like 10 or 11 straight times, you know, just, you know, the laughter, you know, I still remember that laugh he had on it. He loved it. It was just so much fun. And it became one of my favorite, you know, rides at the park, you know, in part because it was a lot of fun, but also it was one of the first, you know, things where the park, you know, really wanted me to be involved and be speaking to the media about it. You know, what I thought so was Carl Eichmann and myself were kind of the two that they took up into that place that had been the station for the Sky Ride, and that's where we were meeting the media and talking to them about it. And you know, I remember that day, you know, very, very well. But it was kind of, you know, one of the first times outside of the Backwards Racer piece of where the, you know, park was like, you know, we want this guy to be at all these different things that we're doing because, you know, it was just, I generally loved the park, loved the rides, you know, so it was, you know, good copy for the media. It worked for what the park was looking for. But that ride was a lot of fun. So I got to see it kind of go up, you know, that year. Late start again, you know, not opening until, you know, mid-season. But it was you know, it was a time when there were other rides in the Oktoberfest area too, so it kind of helped complement the rides that were there. You know, you had the Bayern Curve was there. You had the Der Spinning Keggers was there, so you had rides like that. Um, it was just, and that at that point in time, I mean, there was a lot to do in Oktoberfest.
Why did it open later in the season?
Just the construction of, like the Fest House, and that was going on, so it was just a later type thing.
So the construction of the Fest House interfered with the construction of Viking Fury?
It was all in that area, so they had that plaza area, and that kind of blocked off a little bit, so you couldn't have the traffic through there, where the entrance and all that was going to be. So there were some delays with that.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, but the Fest House that opened like before Winterfest, right? Like
it opened in Winterfest in '82.
Yeah. Okay,
and then was considered new for '83. But it was just kind of, things were out there, and it just, that area, you just had to kind of stay, clear. You couldn't have, people walking up, getting on the ride, where you enter and exit and all that, with what was going on over by the Fest House, because all the boards and all that kind of stuff were all stacked up outside there.
So was the Fest House the new for '83 attraction?
That was one of the things that was new for '83. Yes, it was. Okay. Although it had opened at Winterfest, so it just kind of carried over as new for '83, because it was going to be a different type of menu for the summer than what they had at Winterfest.
Yeah, and we did a whole episode on the Fest House already, so I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, so just for the record, for those of you keeping track at home, and I hope you are, the height of the full swing is 82 feet, although I feel like it feels like much higher. The angle is 75 degrees. Capacity of the ship is 77 people, which is very rare to see a ride with an odd number as a capacity. Yeah. Hourly capacity is 1,200, manufactured by Intamin AG of Zurich, Switzerland. So for those of you who don't think we have an Intamin, we have several, just not coasters. It's located in Oktoberfest. I always thought when I was little, I don't think this is true, maybe you can dispute it, but I always thought that in the past it like struck the water when it came back and forth, but it never did it?
No, it never struck the water.
Yeah, that's cool. But
they gave it a paint job, a couple years ago, which I think looks fantastic.
Well, they painted it all brown, which was really disappointing. And then recently they like redid the ornate stuff. They painted the mural and stuff, and it looks awesome now.
Yeah, now it does. Yeah. So it was one of those rides that, I wondered about its, future until they, put that work into it. And then I was like, okay, no, this will be here for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. Don, do you have any final thoughts on Viking Fury?
No, it's a fun ride. So if you're somebody that doesn't like roller coasters, but you want to get that sensation of, the airtime and that, this is the perfect ride to do that.
Absolutely. Cool. All right. We'll be right back with your stories. Okay. Your stories. The story is from Jim F. from Cincinnati. This happened back in 2012. For months, I had been grappling with a heavy heart for my recent separation from my ex-wife and not seeing my kids on a daily basis. The world felt dim and joyless. I went through the motions of life, but each day felt like a struggle, and happiness seemed like a distant memory that I would never enjoy again. I don't like how the story's starting, Jim. One day on my way to work, I noticed a billboard for a KI Gold Pass to purchase now before they disappear. I thought to myself, is this what I need to do with my kids to make some happy memories and make me happy again? As we arrived at KI, got our passes processed, entered the admission gates. A wave of color and sound was in the air. We began our day on Planet Snoopy with my youngest daughter and realized that she is tall enough for some bigger rides, which my older kids were happy to ride also. For the first time in a while, riding the racer, I felt the breeze on my face from the front row and rush of adrenaline on the first drop, and looked at the sights and sounds around me and feeling this is the therapy I need, and seeing my kids enjoying it and their faces made them forget about the world outside the gates of KI. One of my favorite rides is the Eiffel Tower. Its towering height offers a view of the entire park and it's very peaceful. As I looked down and looked in the complex chaos of the people below, I could feel people enjoying life. And after a few more rides, I found myself smiling, really smiling for the first time in a long time, and spending quality time with my kids. In the nighttime, we settled down on a bench and watched the fireworks. Each explosion of color filled the night sky. And in that moment, I felt a sense of belonging and happiness that I haven't felt in a long time. For the rest of the season, we made many more trips and wonderful memories. And when the season was over, I made a promise to myself that I wanted to thank KI for being the inexpensive therapist that I needed in my life. So I accepted a position at the KI Call Center in 2013 and worked there for 10 years. I was passionately helping others so that they could have the best day ever. I'll always realize that life, like a roller coaster, has its ups and downs, but the ride is what matters most. And I'm happily remarried to my new wife, and I'm always grateful to the park that saved me from the worst possible time in my life. It's that distraction, you know?
You know, I mean, it's just another one of those stories where, you know, Jim has, you know, really good memories of it. It was there at the right time when he needed something like that. And, you know, just, you know, you like hearing those kind of stories, how the park really helped someone get through what they were going through at the time.
Yeah. And there's always times when the park is exactly what you need. Like, I remember the first time coming back to the park, like after my dad died. You know, I mean, I didn't go the same day or anything, of course, but it was kind of like, that was the normalcy. That was the happiness that I needed in that moment to remind me that, you know, life presses on, and that what it looks like now with planning a funeral and feeling that emptiness and stuff is not what the rest of the world looks like. It's just in the now kind of thing.
Yeah, I took my daughter the day that my dad was, not the day that he died, but the day that he was buried.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a kind of a rough day for us, and just thought, you know, do you want to go to Kings Island, you know, for a couple of hours? And it's just what we both needed, you know, that day. So it's you know, it's just, you know, again, a place that it means so much to so many people in so many different ways.
I agree. And Jim, I really appreciate it. I know who you are, obviously, for those of you who aren't Jim, you know. But I understand your passion. I see it all the time. And I see where you're coming from. And I feel like a lot of people have stories similar to this, where the park came into their life at the right time, and they attribute a lot of the happiness they feel now to their experience that they had maybe a few years ago. But very good story. Don, if people have their own stories, where do they send them?
You want to send them to me by email. It is Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com. Include on the subject line story for TT. That way I can separate it from all the other emails that come in. And if you want to include a picture or 2 or 10, just attach those to your story, and, you know, we'll find a way to work those in to the story as we're reading them. But we'd love to hear, you know, what Kings Island, you know, what it means to you. If you have any, you know, special memories of it, your first roller coaster ride, your first job, you know, whatever it might be, you know, share them with us, and we'll feature them on an upcoming episode of Tower Topics.
Awesome. Yeah. And for those of you who haven't heard, Tower Topics is now offering memberships. We've got silver, gold, and prestige memberships. Becoming a member gives you early access to the shows. So you're going to have access before they're uploaded to the public. It's going to give you members only live streams, exclusive content, exclusive merchandise, and for some levels you get free stuff. So there's a link in the description to become a Tower Topics member. And while we're on the subject, I want to give a shout out to some of our prestige members. I want to shout out to Logan Lipper, 330T, and Aaron Board for being prestige members. So thank you guys so much for being the highest tier of supporting the show. Don, let's talk about hoodies.
Hoodies, they are the rage right now, Ryan. They come in an ash color. It's a full zip hoodie. It's got the Tower Topics logo on the chest. It has the big Tower Topics logo on the back. Super comfortable, perfect for this time of the year as the weather gets cooler. A perfect gift idea if you have friends or family members that enjoy Tower Topics, fans of the show. You can get this sweatshirt. It's just $50, which includes shipping. And what you want to do is you want to message us through our X, which is Tower_Topics. If you do not have X, you can send me the email, same address, donhelbig@themeparksbydon.com, and I'll send you the QR code. And once the transaction goes through, it only takes a few days to get your sweatshirt. I think you're going to absolutely love it. And it has, it's off to a good start. And, we've seen already, people have shared photos of them wearing this sweatshirt at places like Jungle Gyms in Cincinnati or, up at Cedar Point, so it's a really good look.
Yeah. And thank you everybody for supporting the show. $50 includes the shipping. We'll be right back with the listener questions. All right, first listener question, Dan D from Beaver Creek, Ohio. What happened to the Kings Island cinnamon bread? Chef James Major made a big deal out of it a couple years ago, and this summer I couldn't find it. Do they still offer it? That's a good question. I haven't thought about that in a while.
I looked for it earlier this summer and I couldn't find it. It had been at the French Corner. So I don't know. I mean, it was a big deal. They were making, out of it. And I thought it was the kind of treat that, the park needed. So when you're there this weekend, Ryan, look into it and see if that's still available. And if not, what happened to it, because it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was. I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but Dollywood's was better. But
Dollywood's is better, Silver Dollar City was better, and Kentucky Kingdom was better.
Oh, you had it at Kentucky Kingdom?
There's nothing wrong with being number 4.
Right. Well, and it was still pretty good.
Cinnamon bread. If you're top 4, that's a pretty good place to be.
It's like being top 10 for USA Today's best haunt things. Anyway.
Yeah, but I really want to know now if that's still available, because I mean, I was one of the people that was helping, promote that, and we did a blog about it. It was on our social media channels. It was in the Kings Island Connections newsletters. That's another question, Ryan. Do you still get the Connections newsletter?
I haven't gotten one for a really long time, so I don't know if they took me off the list or if.
Well, that's something. If you're still getting those, leave a comment in the, for us, if you're still getting the Connections newsletter every couple of weeks, because it's been like 3 months since I last got one.
I don't think I've gotten one that recently, to be honest with you. But I've always had a problem with something with like Gmail spam folder or something where, like, I've always, because I remember even when you, like years ago, when you'd be like, did you see the new newsletter? And I'd be like, I didn't get it. And you'd like forward it to me and I'd get it. So the problem could be on my end, but yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time.
I signed up for all the parks after I left Kings Island last summer and never received any from the other parks. And then when I bought my season pass, started to get them every couple of weeks from Kings Island in April and May. Then, maybe I got one in June and that was it, just never got another one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I
get
assume
text messages all the time, about renew my silver, buy a silver pass or renew my season pass. I get those all the time.
Yeah. Have you renewed your silver pass yet, Don?
No, I have not downgraded to a silver pass yet.
Darn. Okay. Let's go with the next listener question. Next listener question, Rick B. from Goshen, Ohio. Just watched a video by Theme Park Brandon about vortex replacement in 2026. That video came out today as of this recording.
Yes, it did.
How much credibility should I put in what this guy and who's had more channel user names than King Solomon of Israel says? Why do you have to get biblical? You have to bring in King Solomon. Okay, first of all, I've known Brandon for 25 years or so. Brandon is not trying to tell you exactly what's coming. He's making predictions, and it's more like a fun thing. It's kind of like fantasizing about like Kings Island's 5-year plan or whatever. He's not claiming to know any inside information unless he specifically says that. I will tell you though about the name changes though. He did theme park predictions, and I don't remember if it was on the show or if we talked to him offline, but he became theme park recommendations because his recommendation videos were doing much, much better than the prediction videos, because the prediction videos would only get him a little bit of time before.
I like his name being associated with his channel.
Yeah.
Because it's Brandon. This is his work, so I like that part of it. I watched the video today, and he's to me, he's always interesting to get his perspective, and hear what he has to say. I'd recommend following him. I mean, it's it's fun, and like I said, he doesn't ever say, I know this, he's kind of like, this is what I think, and sometimes, when you are in that thing where you're predicting things, or this is what I think, you're gonna be wrong. If you got a 300 batting average, you're doing well, in that kind of line of work. And he's been right, quite a number of times. And but I was thinking after I watched that, at some point we need to have him either on this one or back on the Attractions Group podcast, just to get his thoughts on things that are happening. He's close to the situation at King's Dominion with what they're doing out there with the new ride that's going to open next year. With the name change of Project 305 to what it is now, and he's close to Carowinds with what's happening out there, so we can get his thoughts on their Winterfest event. So I think we might want to have him on at some point here.
I actually, it's funny that he came up, because I woke up to a text from him, and he was texting me about the survey marker that we had on the show, because he was asking if he could use it for his, or if we had any more photos. And I was like, no, I got it from somebody else, but this is who I got it from, because it was a mutual friend. So I don't know if you got a hold of him or not. And then obviously Brandon's video came out, which means he had a heck of a turn and burn for the, for the videos that he makes. But you got to remember, Brandon, once again, is not claiming to know all the answers. His channel is for entertainment and information purposes only.
Well, I think that's how you got to take a lot of those channels, and sometimes people get so bent out of shape over, what Brandon says or Taylor Bybee says or some of the other people say. And, just enjoy the videos. It's like I said, it's entertainment. Just have fun. The industry's supposed to be fun, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like, you can find any YouTuber, and Brandon is fortunately in a position where he does this as his job, and he's doing very, very well. I'm very, very happy for him. But for a lot of us, it's like we do this as a side gig. I mean, I work a 9 to 5, and I come home. I know this
is my job, Brian.
Well, then you could have just at least dressed for the occasion.
Yeah,
you can wear sunglasses in the office here.
Theme parks by dawn are my job. Those are my things now.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, but I'm saying for most YouTubers, for him, his primary job is being a father. He's essentially a stay-at-home father. His wife does very, very well, so she's the breadwinner. But he does very well with his YouTube channel, all things considered. So he's not perfect. And like you said, if you're batting 300 in this, you're doing well. And when he's throwing out his percentages, he's saying, I say there's a 30% chance of this. I mean, he's giving a better prediction than the weatherman. But what I'm saying is, like, I don't know how you feel about it. Like, he doesn't know anything that you don't know. He's just saying in his mind, based on his experience, and he's very experienced with visiting parks, and he did work at Kings Island for a while and stuff. He's very experienced, and he kind of gets it. So there is some credibility behind it, but what he's not trying to do is tell you that he knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's always, this is what I think. It's never, this is what I know.
Exactly. Cool. Well, thanks for the question, Rick. And make sure you check out Brandon's channel if you haven't yet. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.